Hello, everybody. Kelsey Komorowski here, founder of Como, and I am so privileged to be joined tonight by Mary Hannington. I almost called you Rob because that's the name that it says on the screen, by Mary Hannington. She is one of our rock star moms, and I'm particularly thrilled that she has agreed to come on and share her story tonight, because so much of the challenges that she went through, that her son went through, they align so well with a lot of the challenges that most of our families are facing. So Mary, thank you so much for coming on with me tonight. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Kelsey. It's great. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for that. And Mary, I'm actually going to turn it pretty much right over to you. If you can just give us some background on Will's history with school and kind of like what school has looked like in your home over the years, in middle school and then into high school.
So William's now in grade 10, but I'll bring you back to where, we sort of found struggles in elementary in math and English. The teachers were concerned with some phonics issues. So we had him in speech and eye appointments and so forth. Coming to grade 7, the teachers were concerned about some writing skills that he had. So we had an education assessment done for him. And as we progressed with the education assessment, so we went in, the teachers were concerned about his writing skills. He wasn't able to, maybe not necessarily write a complete sentence, but if they asked him to write about anything, he could never elaborate. So we were thinking that he might have had a processing issue, that he can't get whatever's in his brain to his hand to paper. So those were some, issues that we were exploring. Anyway, did the education assessment and found out that his writing skills in a topic that he was really interested in, he wrote superior. So he's in the 99 percentile. Quite shocking to us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, funny how that happens. Okay.
Funny how that happened. So overall, his assessment, he was, average, I guess, among his peers. But then they found some math skills that he just really struggled with. And we knew all along that he struggled with math, but he also had really good support from school and always had teachers that were kind of really helping him at lunchtime and, give him great support. And and then when he was in grade 7, he had a really great math teacher who sort of handpicked him and said, there are 5 different ways to learn how to do math. And she was just going to figure out which way William, learned the best from. Anyway, going into grade 7, his first mark, he had a 92 in math. Amazing, So he has done well throughout with the wonderful support that he's had through school and stuff. So he sort of continued on. And then we found out in grade 9 that the teacher would give him assignments, and he didn't do exactly what they were asking him to do. So the teacher had in science, she gave him a report on Mars, and it was to do a bulletin, and he had to do a bulletin on Mars. Well, he wasn't very creative. He never was. And he didn't really want to do the bulletin. So he decided to do a PowerPoint presentation. And anyway, he did what he felt was right, but didn't quite follow the instructions. And the teacher says, great kid, produces great work, but it wasn't what she asked for. So then we were still thinking there's a process issue here. So moving on. So just knowing the struggles that he was having, Rob and I were thinking, gosh, should we step in? We should be, his marks were good, but we felt that he just didn't know how to study. He didn't know how to put pen to paper.
Yeah. And Mary, I want to pause there for a second, because that is so, we see that so often. And I think it's one of the most frustrating things, because on the one hand, it's obviously great that the grades are there, right? Like, yeah. It's, if the kid has all Fs, that's a very different problem. I feel like in so many ways, it's a bit of a double-edged sword that when the grades are there, but you as the parent are seeing and hearing there are these gaps. And I wanted to ask, like, was this that the science example is such a perfect example. Was this within and between classes as far as that not exactly producing what the teachers were asking, or was it concentrated in specific classes?
It was more concentrated in sort of that English writing, so anytime he had to write something, so elaborating on papers or projects and the thing is, with any project he ever had, we just allowed him to do it whatever way, because we felt that whatever creative way he was bringing it in, it was his own work. It wasn't something that Rob and I helped him with. We didn't cut anything out of the paper, the newspaper. We didn't make it a perfect cut. We just allowed him to cut because we felt that that was his creative way. So there are times that he would do a project and he would have not a lot of information on the paper. So I think that there was them asking him, just sort of, they would ask him a question. And this happened in grade actually 5. The teacher asked him a question and he would have one-liners, literally. But his thing was, I answered what they asked. And I remember one of the teachers in grade 5 saying, he should, William, you should have included this. But in his mind was, but you didn't ask me to do that. You asked me to do A. But she wanted him to do ABC.
That's such a classic tension of expectations there and delivery. So when you started to see this in grade 8 and grade 9 with those just not exactly doing it right, what kinds of conversations, when the teacher gave that feedback, for example, was this something that you openly discussed with Will? Is this something that he was like, yeah, no, I didn't do it exactly, but it's good enough? Or was he like, no, I did it? Like, how was he experiencing that type of feedback?
William felt that he did what was required. She asked, color the whale blue. He just colored the whale blue, or trying to explain, tell me how a whale floats. That's just an example. And he would literally give one line. So he would never elaborate on anything. So thinking that there was a processing issue.
Okay.
So as a mama, I just constantly sort of going through, is there something more that we could do? Is there something more Rob and I could do? Are we missing? Like, William is really intelligent. He's not a gifted child, so he's not on the elite. He doesn't have a disability per se, although his math mark is on very low and maybe below average. So he was kind of in the middle there, but we felt that he was sort of, because he's such a kind, sweet, wonderful kid, we felt that he was being missed. So he was, did really well in school with the support system. He was really, really kind, but he also I think he was missing out on different aspects of the education system because he wasn't, the A+ student, and he didn't have a disability. So he was in the middle there somewhere. So come the summer of 2020, I had found Como and found it on Facebook. Wow. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is for you.
I love that, Mary. Can I ask, because it's sometimes a mixed bag with Facebook, did it seem like, did you book a call right away and come and chat with us and it was all good? Or was it like, this was on Facebook, possibly a scam, I'm not gonna pursue this further? Like, what was your immediate impression?
Okay. I was, for all the information that was on Facebook, and I'm kind of a researcher, so I had gone in and probably watched every video that was there and read every word that was there. Really excited about it and thinking this is perfect for William. This is going to teach him how to learn. and not more of a, subject-based tutoring, so forth. Mentioned it to Rob, and Rob said, nah, nah. And I said, okay, well, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I talked to him more about it and told him, what the great program is. Got him to watch the video, read a lot of stuff to him. And he said, okay, I said, we've exhausted everything that we possibly could do. We've talked to the teachers, we've done this and this. Anyway, come August, we're on a vacation trip. I'm thinking this is a great idea. I'm going to introduce this to William. My approach was, you're going into grade 10, you're going into new school. We want to help you. We want you to have the best year that you've ever had. Anyway, on a family trip, and I'm excited about this. And William was like, no, I want to go into grade 10, Mom. New year. This is going to be a better year. New school, new year. And we said, okay, that sounds fair. We understand that. So I dropped it. I said, I'll give you a month and see how things go, knowing in my head that things may not go well. Anyway, so last year when he left grade 9, struggled, kind of in the math area, but really had good support system. Talked to the teachers all through the year, good relationships with the teachers. And the grade 9 math teacher said, if William is not a strong 75, I will not recommend to him for academic math. And we are thinking, yikes, okay. Anyway, at the end of the year.
And Mary, just for some of our non-Canadian viewers, what does that mean exactly? What are the implications if he's not recommended for academic math?
He would have to do an at work math, which he can't. I don't think, I would say, I don't know if he can go to university. So he wouldn't definitely wouldn't be able to do the science programs. And that's his goal. He was always wanted to be an astronaut or an engineer or something like that. So the at work math wouldn't work for him. So at the end of grade 9, he had an 80. So we're like, great, you're doing well. Anyway, come grade 10, first few tests, he went from an 80 to a 28 in math. That was his first test. And it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking for him. And he did not do much better throughout that year. Grade 10. So he's in grade 10 now. And he felt that the more he tried, the harder he worked, he just couldn't get a leg up. He just couldn't pass. And I feel that grade 10, it's different. It's high school. The teachers feel that these kids are more mature now. There's not as much hand over hand. They're on their own. And plus he had to, and plus we were in the COVID last year and COVID this year. And I just feel that things are just going too fast for William. So he was never able to pick up and catch up. The program would be do a, not a unit, but do so the chapters would be, 1.2, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Well, by the end of the week, the teacher had practically gone through a whole chapter, and it was just test after test after test after test. William could never catch up. So we had gotten him a tutor, and she's a wonderful tutor. She's a teacher who has, very strong background in math and sciences. So we thought, perfect. We'll get her first science and math and biology when the time comes. But even then, having her as a tutor, William would be able to study with her, but still not maintain, a passing mark. So even she would come in, help him to do for that test, and he may have passed or didn't pass. So that still wasn't working.
No, and I also, Mary, I want to highlight this too, because I think there's an assumption or a misconception, however you want to call it, for a lot of students and parents, where it's like, if you're putting in the work and you're getting a tutor, that will solve the problem. And
Yeah.
it's so often people get so frustrated, and students especially, this is where we see at least so much suffering and so much shame, where it's like they start to think, what's wrong with me because I'm
Yeah.
working, I have help. And it's just like that can just crush
It
the
was.
self-esteem. So for William, and just to be clear here we have this kid who wants to do well. He's
Mhm.
working hard. He's working with a tutor, with a great tutor by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
So he's putting in the work. So if you don't mind sharing, like at that time, because this, I can only imagine how upsetting this was for William and obviously for you and Rob. Like at this time, what were the conversations in the household? Was it one of those, we need to find the right way that you're learning? Was it working harder? Like what did that look like for you guys?
Well, you know what? Interesting question, because William, we were at the point that, and I don't mean to say this in a negative way, although it may come out, we were thinking that William was lazy. But we also knew that he was intelligent. He had the potential. We knew he was hardworking, but we were just there was something missing. And Rob and I felt that, what are we missing? Like, why can't we help him? Because Rob's a math brain. He has he has his own company. He has a computer science degree. So he's a math brain. I am not. So I couldn't help him at all. But thank goodness Rob is here. So Rob really hand over hand, and we have a great relationship with William. But it came to the point that William was frustrated. We were frustrated with him. He felt that everything he was doing, every test. So it came to the point that he would come home every day, and this is unbelievable. He'd come home and say, "Mom, I know I got an 80. I know I got at least an 80." And he'd get 0 out of 5, or 2.5 out of 15, or 2.5 out of 20, or 2 out of 30, or something like that. So it was just like, there was nothing. And the thing is, Rob helped him with his math. Plus, we had a tutor. So we knew that he knew his work at home, but he just couldn't do it in class for whatever reason. Every conversation became school related. And I felt that it was ruining our family dynamics. And we have a really good relationship with William, but he would come home from school and we would know his mark in math before he got home from school. But we would say to him, "How do you think you did in your test? How do you think you did?" "Mom, I know I got an 80." And we would be like, "Okay, you got a 0." And we wouldn't say it that way, but so it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking for us. So I'm just going to back up a second. So come this summer, found Como, September, the end of September, we reached out to Como again and said, we talked to William and said, let's just talk to them and see what they say, see what their learning model is. I know it. I read all the information. I know it. I know this is good for you, Will. Anyway, met them, called again, met with Kelsey again. Sounded so good, great conversation. Kelsey had said, "William, what are your goals?" And he was talking about going to university, which we knew, but that was just so nice to hear. I want to go to university. I want to take academic math. I want to do math, even if I only get a 50. I'm going to stick with the academic math. Yay. So everything was great until the last moment. And I can't remember what the question was asked. And William did the no.
It
This
was
is
a
not for me.
hard no. Yeah, hard no.
No. And we did the what? But to find out later, I think the conversation was, we'll do Zoom calls. And he thought he had to be face to face on Zoom call. I think that was the breaking point. And he actually revealed to me, like in February, March, that he said, "Oh, I would have went on that if I didn't have to do a face to face." Like, geez, would have saved us a lot of trouble.
Wow, I was gonna say, and that's clear. I take full responsibility over that if that was the case, because it was one of those conversations where he was so articulate and really unapologetic about, this is what I want for myself. This is how I'm going to get there. He wasn't shying away from the challenges he was having. Like there was no trying to like cover it up or anything. And then at the final moment, he was like, I'm definitely not doing anything to do with what you're saying. And I was like, oh, William, how come? And he's just like, it's not for me. I'm going to do it on my own. That's actually, Mary, I didn't know that before. I'm really happy that you shared that.
Yeah.
Yikes. But so yeah, spoiler alert, they came back. So Mary,
Yeah.
after this conversation
Yeah.
where he was like, I'm not doing this, what happened over the next few months?
So that's when we did, so that was, September, and we just, so that's where we had Rob, stepped up more with helping him. We just sort of tried to engage more in the school. Not as successful as we thought. Got him a tutor, and that worked for a while, but still frustrating. Every conversation at home was about school. I felt that William was getting defeated with the whole. So because he wasn't doing well in math, his first term he had a 49. He had up until March, he had a very unsteady 54. We weren't sure if he was going to pass math. And then so he was wanting to play on the computer more, with his friends. He didn't want to study as much. He wasn't putting as much effort because he just felt that the harder I work, he was not getting results. He was losing confidence in himself. He was just felt defeated. And, I felt that if he was in school working really hard all day and he had to come home, and it was just study, 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 study. Every conversation we had in the house was about William's study. And we were all getting frustrated with the conversation. And then he did an English paper and didn't do well on it. And then finally I said, okay, it's March. You may not pass math. You may have to repeat it. I said, and then I listened to a couple of videos that you had, that Como had. Went in and said to William, I listened to a lot of the Bright and Quirky. I attended that conference, actually, the Bright and Quirky, and for the 5 days, and sort of listened, because I thought, oh my gosh, maybe William has a disability that we're not aware of. Maybe there's something more. Listen to that. So got William to listen to, I think it was Jonathan Young, maybe. There was one of the speakers there that had some trouble in school. This guy's a writer now, and he's I think a professor, and he's written 5 books or something. So it was just amazing to listen. So I got William to listen to him, and there was another student who felt he was doing really well, kind of like struggled in it. William didn't struggle in the way that this student struggled, but he was struggling with academics and sort of feeling that he worked really hard and wrote some really good English papers and didn't do well. And then I got William to listen to those. And I said, let's just talk to Como one more time and just see how it's going to work for you. Anyway, he said yes. Met with Como, and I think it was Nicole the first time, and sort of like really he came in with a real open mind of, I think he reached the point of, I need something else, I need something else for himself. And I was just reinforcing that they're going to work with you. They're going to help you to learn, William. It's all about time management. It's all about communication. It's all about, self-talk. And I felt that when he was going into his math test, though, as much as he knew it at home, if he got stuck in a math problem at school, he either guessed, which didn't work well for him, or he probably self-taught. He probably was saying to himself, I'm not good at this. So no matter what he said, he didn't do well. It was just really deflating for him. So anyway, got him on that first call, and he loved it. He loved it. He has shown up I think the first week was Easter, and he may not have gone to Easter Sunday math class. but he has shown up every single class forever for five days, meets with, and I think it's that positivity. It's what he needed. It was a confidence building that, his coaches, Michelle is amazing with him, and just coming back with, you know, telling William, probably how intelligent he is, and just that real support of. And so I think that William was like watching the videos. I think he thought that they would be boring, but they weren't. He feels that that is he feels that that is one of the main purposes of watching those videos and having the conversations with Michelle, and stepping in and being accountable for what is, so William, what do you have on your plate for today? Doing your calendar, doing your check-ins, doing, showing up, doing your paper, and elaborating on if you have an English paper or a book to read or something. And Michelle was helping him to think deeper into any book that he had to read or paper he had to write or whatever. Like, and I think just having those one-on-one conversations, and it matters. So the first while, so in Nova Scotia, our time on a Friday night was 8 o'clock. I did not think William would ever show up for a class,
Especially on a Friday.
especially on a Friday. And I was like, I was saying to Rob, that's not going to work. He never missed it. And I think that the other thing that he loved being on with other students, and he loved being on students that are older than himself, I believe. And I think he liked being on with students that he didn't really know, that he could be open and authentic to, sharing whatever he needed to. And I think that he just, so the support was amazing. I think it just sort of, Michelle would be asking him questions and drawing out his critical thinking. And I think that, and then getting that positive remark. So, we would get once a week or more, an email from Michelle just saying, this is, and I'm like, I actually said to Michelle in our meeting, our one-on-one recently, does everybody get these positive, comments and remarks? Because we are like, this is amazing. And just sort of that sort of self-talk and I think that's the metacognition, that self-talk, and just that communication piece. I think the most important thing is that positive conversation. So he was getting that from us, but probably not believing it as much as somebody outside would say, you've got this, you know how to do it, that positive, watching the videos. I love it because, I love the Q&As because I learned so much from it, and the parent meetings, we get to meet every Friday. And I just find and I feel that and I don't know anybody, but just meeting every Friday with the same people and asking the same questions that you all have, and sort of like, we're all in the same boat. We all have teenagers that are, struggling a little bit. And yeah, so, yeah, so
So
what
yeah,
else?
so
What
very, no,
else?
I love that. I love that you're highlighting the solidarity for the parent piece. Sorry, I'm kind of in awe of how what you just described is like just such a beautiful articulation of truly so many of the key tenets. When we talk about learning how to learn, I think a lot of people don't really understand what that means, right? And that's a big part of like my work and what I'm hoping to expand and spread, because it's like William could literally be the poster child for what is possible when students
Mm,
lean in to learning how to learn. And I just want
mm,
to highlight a couple of things that you mentioned, because I think they're just gems. The one thing about the thinking deeper, right? Whether
mm,
it's like with a reading or an essay. And I think that, because there's a lot of elements with learning how to learn, but that is so much at the crux of it. And this goes back to most students when they're doing schoolwork, they're doing it. They're doing it to complete
yeah,
it. They're doing it to get it done. They are not engaging with the material. They're not flipped on in a way where they're like actively critically thinking and evaluating and truly tapping into their brain power. which is at the end of the day, like the biggest tragedy of, think about that month after month, year after year. Most students graduate high school never having learned how to tap into that. It's a superpower, really,
Yeah.
right? And so for William to be so not just open, you know, a lot of our students are open, but for him, like, he takes it, I don't know if it's a point of pride, I don't know how you would put it into words, knowing William, but there's such an ownership over it that he's showing. And for him to understand, like, oh, if I think this way, I understand differently.
Yeah.
And can I ask you, so I have just a couple of other questions here. Do you think William was surprised to like it, like to not, because most people, when they hear a program for school and they're like, that sounds terrible, don't want to do it. So do you think he was surprised that he liked it?
I totally think that William was surprised. And you know, usually how moms think that, I know this is right for you, I know this is best. I'm sure thinking about it now, he's probably sorry he didn't do it in September. I didn't think that he would. I don't think he understood what the benefits of it. And I think it was also the commitment. We just had a conversation recently about, I asked him if he would recommend Como, and he said, absolutely, which is wonderful. I wish he could do it every year, but I'm hoping that these skills will carry him through for life. But William said, the things that, you know, the favorite wins that I would have thought of for him is his willingness to do it. He never backed down once to do it. And we were just really proud of him for that. He was very open-minded through the whole thing, and he was very committed. So I don't know if he did it, you know, to make us happy. And I found that, you know, once he was committed, he had this, you know, mantra of conversations. We'd ask him, you know, how's school? And he's, I got it, Mom. You don't have to worry about it. Da, da, da. And honestly, so since we've struggled actually for the longest time this whole year with every conversation, every, you know, home time conversation, weekends, nights, supper time was all about school. It was frustrating. Now we don't have those conversations. We just have general conversations that we've always had with him. So the whole stress of school was taken off both of our shoulders, Rob and I, and William. And I'm just really proud of him for showing up and being so committed and really taking it, you know, what I've described as William has taken this on like a champ, of a 15-year-old boy signing on 5 days a week and really committed and staying on. And the first few sessions, so at the very beginning, he was on for like 3 hours. And so that was like 11 o'clock Nova Scotia time. But it was awesome. It was just really great.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, and I just think that he's probably trying to impress Michelle as well, you know, his coach, because they just have a good, you know, steady working relationship. And I feel that, you know, how you're, you know, it works for all of us. If you study or work on something and then don't get the results that you're hoping for, and that you feel like you're always failing, you know, and then now, and no matter how hard William tried, he just was deflated with some of his marks in math. And now that he's doing really well, so his marks have improved. It's more so, his marks were always, you know, fairly good. It wasn't that, it was him learning how to study, which, you know, he needed to carry, and his confidence, you know, so that has been 100%. So we were, like Rob and I said, we're not always concerned about his marks, because we both feel that every child has an opportunity to learn, and you can learn absolutely anything as long as you have the right support. And we both feel that way. So his marks are not going to define him for the rest of his life. When he gets a job, no one's going to care what his marks were. But as long as he builds up to having good working habits and study habits, and just knowing that, you know, I can learn this through my critical thinking, my communication, my time management, as long as I put those things at the forefront, that he will be successful.
Yeah,
Always,
absolutely. And
always.
always. And I love that you said that about grades, because it's true. Like, yes, good grades are great. Seeing grades go up is great. That's
Yeah,
a part of what we do, and what we want to see and what makes kids feel good. But at the end of the day, school absolutely ends.
yeah,
And it is about that. It's the identity piece. Like, do kids feel smart? Do they feel competent and confident in navigating material that they might not understand? Can they look at something and be like, I don't understand this, but I know I have the tools and I know I can practice and persevere, and figure it out, right? Get resourceful and
yeah,
understand what those skills look like in practice. Because that's the ultimate safety net, right?
yeah,
They don't need to rely on external supports or factors necessarily when they're building out this internal skill set that they know they can use and go back to anytime.
yeah, for sure. Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then I want to actually just shift a little bit over to you, Mary, because from what I'm hearing for William's journey of, I'm ready, I'm doing this, I'm leaning into learning how to learn, I'm showing up. And also I wanted to highlight, I love that you use the word showing up. And for anybody listening, I want to be super clear. Our students are not showing up for us. They're not
Yeah, yeah,
showing up,
for themselves.
for the parents. They're showing up for themselves, because otherwise what we see is it doesn't really work otherwise.
Yeah,
Right? Like, they need to be at that place for themselves. And that's where the magic happens. And here's the cool part. And I think, again, Williams just exemplifies this. He was open and wanting to change. It's not like he came in thinking, I have to get a 99 in everything and be perfect, right? Like, that's not what it's about. And in fact, Mary, I remember
mhm.
I think it was the first week or towards the end of the first week, and I checked in. I was like, how are you feeling? How's it going? And he's like, I used to really not be happy waking up to go to school. Like, I didn't want to go to
Mhm.
school. And he was like, I don't dread it as much. And I thought that was one of my favorite wins I've heard. I was like, that
Um,
is so fantastic that you're
yeah,
dreading it less. Like, what a great
yeah.
starting place.
And that's what it was in that time frame. It was hard to get him out of school, you know.
Yeah.
But he always wakes up himself. He always that was, he always set his own alarm. He never had to do that, so that was a good thing. So
Yeah. And Mary, just I want to shine this light on you, because you're obviously a super mom.
I don't know.
Yes,
I'm not
yes,
sure I got that.
100% you are, because you've also shown up, right? It's not
Mhm.
like you're like, here, fix my kid and I'm gonna go and not do anything. Like, you've also been 100% committed and invested, and like open to the possibility of, how can we change, how can he learn, not focusing on the grades or the transactional nonsense, like really focusing on him as a human, as a learner, and how he's
Mhm.
feeling, and his relationship, right, with learning and with himself. So just from your perspective, the mom hat, what would you say are some of your favorite parent wins, from this journey?
I think for us, it's that sort of stepping back and allowing William to learn on his own pace with Como, sort of having, so Como has allowed us to sort of um, stop having that conversation constantly about school. So the school was encompassing our lives, kind of thing. So I think when Como had stepped in, I think Nicole said to me at the first meeting, you don't have to check anything. You don't have to check his work, his homework, his marks, or anything. She said, we're doing that. We got it. And I was thinking, Rob and I are like, we haven't checked. We haven't, Rob probably, checks a little bit, but I don't. And I felt it has given us breathing room to sort of come together more as a family. So there's literally no conversations, or very little. I would say in, September to March, or it was 100% conversation. And it was a lot of frustration about feeling bad about William and his math, and how we were going to figure that out, or how he was going to figure that out, or, building his confidence and getting that back, and, getting him back in the driver's seat of, how can that change for him? And he tried, it just wasn't working for him. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
And, I think that, one of the conversations I think, Kelsey, you had with him at the beginning and he actually explained this to Michelle in our one-on-one the other night of, I'm in the driver's seat. I'm the only one who can change this. Nobody else can change this but me. And I really think he took really hard to that. So that was like probably the first conversation you may have had with him 2 months ago. He's still carrying that on in the back of his mind of, I'm in the driver's seat. Nobody can change this but me.
How
And
empowering is that? I
yeah,
love that.
yeah, for a 15-year-old. So, I'm just really impressed with, I'm just really impressed with, just hearing him in conversations, even with Michelle, on him wanting to change. He wants this for himself. He wants to, and even now having conversations of come, grade 11, he's like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Well, and he's accumulated the evidence in support of that, which I think kind of nicely ties all of this together, right? Like we've talked about like the negative self-talk and working so hard, not seeing it translate. All of that is just such self-defeating evidence of like, I can't do it or what's wrong with me or whatever. And the very opposite of, oh, I'm working, I'm learning, he's bridging some of these math gaps and he's seeing that grade go up a little bit. He's seeing it translate to other things and he's having this more positive self-talk. And it's all just translating into, and I'm happy that you shared that. I didn't realize that because it's something that a lot of teens feel initially intimidated by. They like taking responsibility, taking ownership. And when we can help them understand of like, no, this is a great thing. Like, this is like, you have so much freedom and it's so liberating when you understand that you are in the driver's seat.
Well, that's interesting because one of the things that William had said, he thought Como would take over his life. Like he thought that because he struggled with the math and the homework, he was exasperated with himself, frustrated. So it was taking him longer to do the math because he wasn't open-minded. He sort of shut down. So he wasn't open. So like even Rob would say, William, we could do this in an hour, but what an hour of his frustration was taking him 3 hours. And I think that we had this conversation last week about Como. He said, I really thought that Como was going to be, I have homework and I want to be with my friends online with gaming. And Como is just going to be another pain but if it was actually just the opposite. It was just like, oh my gosh, I think Como has saved him to, I have Como and I have my friends and the homework sort of goes along with Como. So they work together. The school work, that's as one unit and his friends. So instead of having 3 that he thought were going to be overwhelming or too overwhelming, now he Como is just encompasses whole school. So his, and we even said when he was sick a few weeks ago, we said, if you can't get on school, we want you to go on Como because that's what's going to help you, so.
Yeah. I love that. And it's one of I want to like, for those in the back who can't hear, for any students who are like resisting, it's so true. And I feel like kids are so skeptical where it's like, we'll tell them, we don't want to tell you what to do. We don't want to take over your life. We want to make your life easier. Like that's literally our job, is to make your life easier and is to make you feel better. So I love that. And Mary, I'm also cognizant of our time. I've kept you longer than I promised.
Okay.
I just have one big final question, because I think many gems that you've shared, but one of the big things is just how much, student success does not happen in a vacuum. It is so bound up with household dynamics. It affects mom, it affects dad, it can affect siblings. Like, so there's been this I love that shift from even the conversations of like school to like normal dinner time stuff.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And I know that a lot of parents watching are like, what was the thing? What was a trigger? What is something like, Mary, what is, 1 or 2 pieces of advice or insights that you would give to parents who are currently in the thick of it, who are currently really struggling?
I would say to sign up to Como.
I did not tell her to say that, by the way.
I know. I think that For us, Como allowed us to breathe, to so having that shift of mindset of William, um, and sort of William sort of embodied Como. He really took it seriously, if I'm answering your question right. He took it serious almost from the get-go of, I think his first meeting was on a Wednesday, and then he, met on a Friday. And I think it was the positivity. So I think it's like, if you're struggling, if you feel like you're struggling with your child, um, now, having a third party in there just to like, it's just, it's amazing. And I just think that, like if you're struggling in math, and this is just an example for Will, is that he was struggling in math. He just wasn't getting the support from the school that he needed. But bringing somebody else in, like a third party person in, who's going to give you all that positivity. Like, who doesn't work on that positivity? Like, that's just life in itself. Like, if I had a boss who said, Mary, you're great at this, 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 of course you're going to do better. So that's where Michelle sort of stepped in, and she worked with William, and whatever she says to William, he swallows it up and loves it. And I think they worked really well together. And, she sends us messages every week, that he's just doing so well. And then he's using the critical thinking. And here's an example of, you know, in her conversation with William, that he feels himself that he's using his time management and his, planning and his check-ins. And it also helped him to talk to his teachers a little bit better. So that's watching the videos. William said watching the videos was key for him, sort of watching those videos, the SSA videos, that just was key to him. And then for the most part, he was always prepared to go into class and have watched the videos in advance, and then having great conversations with people who are there and who are listening to him, and sort of having that dialogue, because he's an intelligent guy. And but he needs, I don't know, it was just, I think it worked well for him.
Thank you, Mary, for that. And I'm just going to say, like, essentially everything that Mary just said is help them learn how to learn.
Yeah,
Our
totally.
program, like, that's what we're experts in. That is literally our wheelhouse, is showing teens how to learn, and working with parents to facilitate that. If you want that, if you have questions about that, book a call with us. We are so happy to talk to you. It's comoconsulting.com/get started now. That was what Mary did a couple of times before we got the yes from William, which is totally okay. But you guys, it's so much better if you are struggling. Start now. We're here to help. And excuse me, Mary, I just have to say thank you again so much. There were so many gems in this conversation. I'm going to be, I know, going back and like clipping things out and just blaring them from the rooftops. So really appreciate your time. And thank you for coming on with us tonight. And for everybody else, once again, you want to book a call, go to comoconsulting.com/get started now. And thank you again, Mary.
Okay, great. Thanks.